Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Civilian Medical Podcast. It has been a while. I apologize. Completely my fault and Shawn's fault, but that's problem has solved itself. We fired Shawn. It was all Prep Medic's idea to fire him. I said no, let's don't fire Shawn. Shawn's a vital member of this team, and Prep Medic was like, he's out of here. He's old, and
Yeah,
you fired him.
absolutely. You can't have two podcast hosts in the same state. It's a law of physics.
Oh, I totally forgot about that. So, introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Sam. I run the page Prep Medic, which is, insurmountably better than Skinny Medic's page. There for sure. But we figured we'd co-host, and we all know it's not really a co-host. I'm hosting it, and he's my guest from here on out. But yeah, I think we're going to be doing this a little bit more regularly. It sounds like.
Yeah, and like I said, in all seriousness, Shawn helped me get this podcast started, and really, he's just super busy. Honestly and truly, like there's nothing. We didn't fire Shawn, anything like that, but he is just super busy. So he has handed over the reins to Sam and I. So I think it will be a good mix of funny, which would be me, and intelligent, which would be you. So we can kind of blend in together.
Absolutely. And I think he will definitely be missed on here because he kept the conversation going, and I'm still trying to figure out this platform for sure. But yeah, I'm excited for where it's gonna go.
Yeah, so no hard feelings. Like I said, Shawn's just busy doing other things. We didn't really fire him, but he wanted to see the show go on. So I think that Prep Medic and I have different thoughts on different things, and that kind of makes sense. Different backgrounds. We came from the same environment with both paramedics. I've not done any flight. He's currently a flight paramedic. We both tactical paramedics. So, but I think our YouTube channels are definitely geared kind of towards different people, and I think we can come together and make a good podcast for civilian medical. But I kind of focus more on that civilian side, where Sam is focusing on EMT students, paramedic students that are currently already in paramedic school, things like that. So a lot of good educational videos there on his channel.
As that is a segue, what are you doing right now?
Um, I don't really know what I'm doing, honestly. We are doing a lot of after action reports. I think that is what's really good for my channel, kind of like focusing more on that. Uh, there isn't a whole lot of gear reviews coming out for medical. It's not a like cutting edge medical supplies coming out right now. No more new tourniquets are coming out, no new pressure bandages. So I was like, all right, can't really build my channel solely on that. So we're doing a lot of after action videos, which seem to people really enjoy. YouTube doesn't like it so much, but uh, you guys seem to really enjoy it.
That's awesome.
What about you?
I'm just trying to get by right now. With a 2-month-old at home, it's all I can do to get a video out every week. So, I've been trying to keep a good mix, do the gear reviews. You can only do so many IFAC reviews before you're just reviewing the same product over and over again. There's only so many combos that you can put into them, but, have some educational things. Just did one on infant CPR and stuff, and trying to like branch out a little bit into, day in the life and showing different things, not just me as a talking head in my studio. So working on it. Schedule's getting a little bit more regular now. But yeah, it's just trying day by day to get by.
Are you still doing 24s or what do you do for flight?
Yeah, I do 2 24s a week. So I can't complain too much. I work every Thursday and Saturday. Usually have to have a recovery day after each of those. So I count it as 4. And then the rest of the week it's childcare and this.
That's not too bad. I do want to say I do appreciate Primary Arms for sponsoring the YouTube channel or the podcast. They're still going to sponsor the podcast, so I do appreciate them sponsoring it. I will put a link down below. They've got a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool firearm related stuff, a lot of gear stuff too. That if you like our channels, you like this podcast, you're probably interested in it. So I do appreciate Primary Arms for sponsoring the podcast. I get used to saying that. So you got a new baby. So you're sleeping like 8 to 10 hours a day, right?
I'm sleeping plenty. My wife is sleeping a lot less.
Oh my goodness. She's out of school or in school still?
Well, she's a resident right now, so
That's
she's in school, but she's also working. It's kind of a weird amalgamation between the two where you're a doctor, but they still don't treat you like an adult, and you're still learning a lot of stuff. So she's got another 2 years of that to go,
Oh my goodness.
and then 2 years of fellowship after that, and then
That
she'll
is,
be a real person
with lots of debt.
with lots of debt. Well, we're doing good on that front. So hopefully not forever, but yes, lots of debt.
Man, awesome. Well, I will say that it's a rough stage you're in, but they don't stay in like those stages very long. So you will miss this stage one day, I promise.
I believe it. There's gonna come a time where he's running around trying to stick his fingers into outlets and stuff. So right now I can just kind of put him somewhere and he doesn't do anything bad.
Gage just turned 14, so we're talking about cars and driving, and this time next year he will be getting his learner's permit. So it makes me feel really old.
Oh man.
It's every day he sends me a picture of a car that he wants, and it's usually cool cars. But he's kind of gotten to the Japanese cars too. I'm like, bud, like let's stay away from the Japanese cars. Let's just do like American Muscle, something like that. So, but I do miss those days. Like I wouldn't go back, but I do miss them.
That's fair.
So I wanted to just kind of like catch us up since we haven't done a podcast in a while. Had some big news on the tourniquet market recently.
Oh yeah.
I am not a fan of Recon Medical. I have not done any reviews on my YouTube channel. I caught a lot of crap for that, but I've never done a review on the Recon Medical tourniquet. I've got a couple, and to be honest, I've never broken one of those. I've broken plenty of the other Chinese knockoffs that you can get on Amazon, things like that. And I've done a few videos on how to recognize like what's a real North American Rescue combat application tourniquet and what's a knockoff, things like that. But apparently, NAR and Recon Medical have been in a lawsuit.
Yeah, and I think that's been going on for a while. So, the second you said you're not a fan of Recon, I could just like feel the anger from the other side of the screen, or the listeners logging off in anger there, because this is a topic that gets a lot of people going. And I have to say, I'm not a fan of Recon either as a company. So they just lost a lawsuit to North American Rescue for patent infringement. During the course of that lawsuit, the judge found that they were using deceiving marketing techniques to make people believe they were buying an actual combat application tourniquet from North American Rescue. And they also admitted that there was no quality control at their factory in China. And then on top of that, there was some known QC deficits of these. As far as I know, with the new generation, I haven't heard anything that says, it's critical failures, but there was some delamination on the Velcro or hook and loop, whatever they're using to secure the tourniquet to itself. So kind of hit threefold, and then they were told that they had to stop manufacturing them immediately, and that was basically their entire business model was their tourniquets. They sold some other things, but it doesn't keep them afloat. So the last I heard, Recon isn't manufacturing them anymore, and they filed for bankruptcy.
Yeah, and that's kind of my thought process has been the entire time. Like it's a cat. It really is. I have not broken any. I know Shawn has used a bunch of them in class, but just the quality control scares me. The fact they're not pulling those, like that would make me concerned. So that's always been my go-to is like, yes, it looks like a cat, it acts like a cat, but the quality control scares me that if one of those breaks and your life depends on it, like that is not cool. And
Yeah.
the last information I read was on the Gen 7 cat tourniquet, there have been no failures that were due to the device. So sometimes we see that people don't get the strap pull tight enough and the windlass is overturned, things like that. But my understanding, there's been no failures on the Gen 7. So I just would rather trust my life to something like that or a soft T or one of those other tourniquets on the market.
Yeah. And that's what it comes down to for me is, when you look at, like, let's say you're looking at the SWAT T or the RATS tourniquet even. Gosh, we're going to really get in the weeds here and people are going to get
Oh,
really
we're going
pissed.
downhill fast.
You look at those and they're completely different designs. So their failures are seldom due to quality issues with the product. They have QC on both of their factories. Their failures are related to how you actually apply it and how it's designed to work. Whereas, and you can anticipate that, you can train that, honestly. Like, you can train with a rat's tourniquet and be relatively effective with it. I still don't advocate for it. I still would never carry a rat's, but you can.
Hmm.
What scares me about a company that's putting out a medical product with no QC is that you can't anticipate the failure. People are like, "Oh, I got 5 and I tried them and I've never had an issue." Like, you've never had an issue. You don't have an issue until you do. And they're not multi-use items, so you should only be using it once. People say, "Well, I looked at it, it looked fine." I don't think you can look at the internal band that's actually providing the pressure. So you're really not going to know a failure point of something until you put it on. You can't anticipate for it. You can't train for it. On the surface, if you get one that's manufactured fine, honestly, it's probably going to work. Most of the time, a Recon Medical tourniquet's probably going to work, but that that probably scares me in that. And it would be one thing if they were the only ones manufacturing like a tourniquet that was that quick, but the fact that there are, what is there, 6 other Committee for Tactical Combat Casualty Care like recommended tourniquets on the market from different manufacturers.
Hmm.
Why would you go with something that has no data behind it? Why would you go with something that has no QC at a Chinese factory? And all to save what, $15, off of it? It doesn't seem worth it to me.
And I agree. Like if it was something totally different, like it was something that did something totally made the cat like it was a cat plus, like it fixed something the issue with the cat. I don't know, but if it did something totally different, you're like, oh wow, that's cool. I would be about it. I'm like, all right, I hate this made in China, but if it does something really cool, like I want to, if it could save lives, then we'll take a look at it. But it was a cat, and they all have their issues. Like the cat tourniquet, I've been accused of being a cat tourniquet fanboy, which hey, is what it is, but it has its issues. If it gets wet, gets muddy, the hook and loop is not going to stick as well. So that's where the soft T really comes into effect. The soft T is a better that option. Um, the older versions of the soft T to me weren't as well for one-handed application. The buckle
Absolutely.
wasn't as good. Now the new generation soft T, the buckle is 100% better. It flows much better, but it's still the cat is king. Just I like the Sam XT. I like the fact that it has the audible click when you get it tight enough, but it has its issues too. Um, all like the ratcheting tourniquets are cool. We put those in our search and rescue bags just because you can make micro adjustments to those. I like those, but there's no perfect tourniquet on the market. I feel like.
Yeah. And the improvements that, in my mind, the improvements that they made on like the Recon tourniquet, what like they said were improvements of like a metal windlass and, a thumb hole to like pull it tight. Like these were all, they weren't necessary improvements, I guess is what I'd say. Like you said, the windlasses aren't breaking on Gen 7 cat tourniquets. They're not. They're plastic. Just because something's metal doesn't mean it's better necessarily. And the thumb hole, like whatever. Like if you wanted to, make it better, I can think of some other things that you could have done because like you said, that Velcro gets gummed up really quick with mud, blood, water, whatever, which is why I like what is it? The TX3? Is that the ratcheting one?
Mm-hmm.
I like that for like scuba diving applications, water rescues and things because it doesn't rely on that. It's just a friction lock. Or even, the soft T wide. But yeah, I just don't see the quote improvements that they made, which were really just ways that they could manipulate it to try to get out of the patent infringement.
Yeah.
They didn't actually solve problems that I saw with the cat tourniquet. So I've been accused of being a cat tourniquet fanboy. And for the record, I I have never gotten anything from North American Rescue. Like they won't even return my emails. So, with that, I am not paid to say that whatsoever. And I could care less who's manufacturing it as long as they're doing a good job. And I don't think Recon was.
I have never been paid by North American Rescue. I have got lots of free stuff, and they take very good care of me. We had a what is their junction? The Jet
Oh yeah.
junctional tourniquet. We were doing a TEC class with it, and it broke. Like because we were using it for training, and over and over and over again, it broke. So I called him like 9 o'clock in the morning. I was like, "Hey, I just broke this." By lunchtime, I had another one brand new and sitting on my desk. So they are awesome to me. So like I said, maybe that does make you a fanboy, but I'm like, man, they take really good care of me. But I've never been paid. I pay them a lot of money because we're a
Right.
distributor for them, but I also pay you a lot of money through your affiliate links. So
I'm expensive.
you are expensive. I was like, man, our workers are like, how many of these civilian medical trauma kits are we going to sell? I was like, that's all Prep Medic. Like, he did that video and it went nuts. So Shawn designed that kit and you promoted it, and we're just selling it. So
Yeah, it's a good kit. I actually like it, and it's actually funny. And this is a complete tangent. I went for an elk hunt this last year, and the guide that we were with through our outfitter was a young guy, super active, but like he's a typical outdoorsman, kind of backwoods, born and raised, and he had no health insurance whatsoever. And he was like, hey, I'm just back here, things happen, whatever. We've had to medevac like 8 people out of here in the last, 3 years or something. And so we went through and he showed me his like first aid kit, and it was like band-aids and an ace wrap and like a little tube of antibiotic ointment that probably expired before the Cold War. Um, and so I ended up at the end of it, I just gave him that kit because I was carrying it in my pack all week. And I was like, I've got a million first aid kits at home. You can have this one. And a week later, he had another group he was back there with, and he came out and he texted me and he was like, hey, so that came in really handy. Apparently, a lady fell off her horse and her foot got caught in the stirrup. The horse went forward and gave her a nice big compound fracture on her leg about 20 miles into the Bob Marshall Wilderness area. Able to take out the splint that was in it, which is one of the things I really like in it. Use it. Helped her out there, and she actually ended up riding out with that splint in place. So I thought it was kind of cool, kind of
that is
fortuitous
pretty
that he
cool.
got that. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what kind of supplies did you have besides the kit on you?
Really, I honestly, I brought the kit, and then I brought like blister packs and like a pill pack that I had, and that's really all I brought back there with me.
Because weight's an issue for you. Like, just you don't want to carry a bunch of crap.
Nope, and especially when you're hiking with mountain people, and you're already at elevation and you're holding a rifle, like I got my ass kicked every day, and I had a lightweight kit on,
Yeah.
so I was not about to pack on more than I absolutely had to there.
No, I could definitely imagine, because when I came out to Colorado, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so short of breath. Like, I was like, I'm not that out of shape. I mean, I'm old, but I'm not that out of shape. Like, we hiked every day somewhere out in Colorado, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, definitely the high altitude definitely gets you.
Absolutely. But anyways, that was a tangent. I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good. So moving forward with the show, I definitely think we want to continue to focus on the civilian side, and we'll pull some other people in, obviously. But I would like to see us keep going through different subjects. I think that's pretty cool. I think people like that. We've went through like the steps of the March algorithm. We went through burns, things like that. So I think getting more to the medical side would be fun. Talking about strokes, heart attacks, things like that. I know you just did an infant choking on your channel, which is really cool. See your little guy pop up there. But I think that would be some cool stuff. Obviously, we'd like for you to let us know some subjects we want to talk about. And Sam's super smart, so he can just rattle off stuff.
Right. I've got Google. I can just Google everything really quick and then sound
Yeah,
smart.
we'll
Yeah,
just
I agree. If people have suggestions, I'd love to hear them. DM me, DM Skinny Medic, whatever it is. Give us some suggestions on what you guys want to hear about. We won't take all your suggestions, but we can try.
yes. What's our plan to record?
Man, I'd like to do at least every other week if we can. Maybe we can bump that up in the future, but if we can get a backlog, get people, a regular schedule, so it's not just a random podcast that pops up every other month or so.
Just
I
keep
think that
them
would be
guessing. I
cool.
just like keep them on their toes. That's all I'm trying to do. Like, haven't seen these guys in 6 months. Are they still alive? So they're like, oh yeah, here's a show.
Yeah, well, people are still convinced that we're mortal enemies, and I
We
go back
are.
to the comments on your like hit piece on me periodically just to see what people are saying.
Dude, I love that video. It's a great. I get comments every single day on that video. Like, that's funny stuff.
I personally like the ones that are like, I can't believe you've stooped this low, and they've clearly haven't watched the video or anything, and
Yes.
they're just sitting there just shit talking. They're like, I'm gonna unsubscribe because you're being just mean. You shouldn't feed into the drama. I appreciate those. Those are my favorite.
So here's a secret, guys. There's a thing called SEO, search engine optimization. So people searching for Prep Medic a lot. Okay. So if I make a video that's talking about Prep Medic and his name is in the title, so they search Prep Medic. Guess what video pops up? Mine. So all of a sudden they were looking for Prep Medic, and I have got them off course. Now onto my reckless channel. I just stole them from Prep Medic. That's the only reason why I did the video.
Yep. Yep.
I
I
use your
seen the
hashtag all the time. I'm like, I hide it in the middle of the hashtags. Like I'll be like, blah blah, hashtag Prep Medic, hashtag rescue. Like I'll just dump his hashtag in there just to try to steal some people.
Well, I think if you look at like my analytics, I think the number one search that leads to my videos is Prep Medic. People are searching Prep Medic. So yeah, that's pretty smart. I don't use your hashtag at all.
Man, maybe you should. Oh man. But yeah, like that video cracks me up. But yeah, like people like still think we hate each other, and we legitimately talk probably every other week, every week. When Shawn and I were talking about this podcast, you were someone we talked about early on. So yeah, it's fun. It cracks me up.
Only get better from here.
So do you have what's your favorite medical setup right now?
Favorite medical setup? Like kit?
Yeah, you've gotten in a bunch of kits. And it
Okay.
doesn't obviously, don't be biased and say, oh, it was a civilian medical trauma kit. Like, don't do that. But you've been reviewing a lot of kits lately. So I was just curious what your favorite kit is right now.
My favorite right now, it's not a pre-made kit, but the company that I'm kind of going for right now is Recon Medical.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their stuff is expensive. Expensive equipment, but honestly, for like the SWAT medic stuff and even for some of the aircraft stuff, they do an awesome job. So yeah, they're kind of the company to beat right now. But that's only if you either A, have a government contract and they can buy the little NARC case for you that's $150, or the
Jeez.
fanny pack that's like 200, I think. Or you're independently wealthy and have a sugar mama like I do. So, you know, those are the two ways to get Recon Medical at this point.
Yeah. I looked at some of their stuff. They have really nice stuff. I was looking at London Bridge, looking at their carriers the other day. Like, they have some nice carriers, but they're like $500.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that's tough to pull the trigger on a $500 plate carrier that I wear 3 times a month.
Yeah. You know, and that's the thing is, you know, I got a lot on the recon topic. I got a lot of shit because like the plate carrier I use, let's see, where can't even see. I use that guy back there, the first spear. But you know, I got that through, you know, being on YouTube partially, at least bought some of it. And then like I use the HRT tactical one, which people are like, oh, that's made in China too. I don't see it the same way when it comes to nylon because the functionality from what I've found of a, you know, $150 plate carrier to that of a $600 plate carrier, $500 plate carrier, for me is pretty similar. Not all the way. And if, you know, you're a heavy hitter, which I'm not, you know, I'd say get the best you can. But, you know, for us on the civilian side in the tactical medic world where we're walking around with bodyguards most of the time, like you said, 3 times a month, I don't know, $500 for a plate carrier is a lot to spit
Yeah.
out.
If I wore it every single day, or if I was, doing some really cool stuff, so high speed stuff every single day, I probably would pull the trigger on it. But for something that I use 3 times a month for a few hours here and there, I'm like, oh, like but I like the HRT. That's the one I'm currently using as well. Uh, I I think you and I talked about it that I didn't like the buckle system because if I'm in a hurry, I struggle to get that thing on really, really fast. And sometimes in training, we are competitive and we're like sprinting and trying to see who can get their plate on fast, and you have to run back. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I want to cuss that thing. Like I'm trying to get it locked in there fast enough as I'm trying to run. So that's the only thing I don't like. I like the module, how I can switching things in and out of it, but the buckle system, I wish you just had regular Cobra buckles.
Yeah, you know, I kind of go with I like the original first spear tube system. Like that's kind of my go-to because that's what I was brought up on. With it, I just think that's the easiest way to go. You just kind of stick it in, let it go. And I feel like everybody, like Core Performance, HRT, all of these other companies are trying to find a buckle system similar to them, and it doesn't quite match up yet. I'm sure somebody will invent a better mousetrap sooner or later, but right now I still like those, and I agree the HRT one's a little bit hard to buckle. However, in reality, the only thing that matters is how it unbuckles, and it unbuckles just fine.
Right.
Yeah, and honestly, you can be honest with us, it's not like buckling it any faster is gonna actually cut down on your time that much when there's running involved.
No, and the only time we're doing that is just when we're screwing around training. If I go to put it on, I pull my drawer system out of my truck. I'm standing still because that's covering concealment, and I lock it on. Then I step out. So typically, I'm not in a big giant hurry to lock that on. So
I think you missed my insult, I was calling you old and slow.
yeah, I just skipped right over you. I was ignoring you. I just ignored you. I currently use the NAR4 backpack. I like that a lot. It has the modules in it, so I can label everything, keep it nice and clean and organized. So, which backpack are you using now?
You know, I'm struggling right now. I think our special operations team does the same thing you do. We do SWAT, and then we also do like search and rescue, and some high angle stuff. So man, I'm trying to find a good setup, and I've got right now the Mystery Ranch Rats pack, which I love that pack. It's awesome. But I'm also a pack rat, and I fill that bag up, and I don't need most of the stuff in there, I would think. So I was using the NAR 4 aid bag for a while, which I like. It wasn't quite big enough for some of the search and rescue stuff because they kind of expect you to be a fully functional paramedic in the middle of nowhere.
Hmm.
The Rats pack is just a little bit big for a lot of these warrant services and stuff, but I don't like having two packs. So yeah, I don't quite know where I'm going to go with it at this point, to figure out what I actually need. But there's really not a whole lot of resources out there on like what, civilian tactical medics are a pretty new thing. And every system's different. So what you have to carry, what your scope of practices is going to be different everywhere. And it's just hard to find resources to kind of inform you on what you're supposed to have in them.
Yeah, we're stuck in the same boat you are because I may be on the side of a mountain doing a high angle rescue, and the next day be serving a search warrant. So I don't like having two backpacks. He's like, I did it for a while. I had a VanQuest bag that I carried. It's kind of the same thing. Like I'd carry splints and all ice packs and fluid and all this other stuff that I might need, and a bag ends up weighing a ton. But then a search warrant, I'm like, I don't need any of that crap. Like I don't care about a splint for the
Yeah.
most part. I'll fix that later. So trying to find the happy median, we're not carrying a whole bunch of gear, but carrying the necessities gets complicated. So even to kind of relate that back to the civilian world, the average guy who works an 8 to 5 job can't have a big giant backpack of supplies that he might need. So I think trying to talk through what we carry and things like that might be useful for some people to kind of figure out what they're going to do for like a vehicle kit, stuff like that. So that might be a
Yeah.
cool subject.
I think people like, for us, when you get into like the professional realm and the advanced life support realm, like I was on the side of the mountain a couple months back, like with a dude having a heart attack, and we sat with him for 3 hours. So we're hanging heparin drips and we're given these meds and preparing for cardiac arrest and all of these things. And that just obviously that's not feasible. Like that's not feasible for the everyday person. The training and all of that goes into it. It doesn't matter. Um, and then when you start distilling what you need down in the civilian world, like it does change depending on what your role is. Not everybody needs to walk around with an ankle kit or, live the Creed pocket kit or, something like sometimes something in their desk drawer is going to be just fine most of the time. And I think you have your basics, like you have the bleeding control stuff on you, but you also don't need to repeat bleeding control 8 million times over. Like if you have, a tourniquet or two, a thing of packing gauze, chest seal, maybe an NPA if you're feeling really plucky, and you know how to do CPR, that's going to cover you for most of the preventable causes of death. And you really don't need that times 5 in your car. So if you
Yeah.
have that on your person, you can have a small kit in your dashboard or something. I think that I think that's completely valid and effective most of the time.
Because you did a video on EDC a while back, right? And you basically said compressed gauze and a SWAT tee. Was that it? Remember? I don't.
Yeah, and I'm all for the COT tourniquets. The SWAT T has a lot of issues, but like if you're looking for something that's multi-use, a cat tourniquet's a cat tourniquet. That's all it does. But you have some devices like the SWAT T that actually have some other uses. And packing gauze, like if you can't afford anything else, just a thing is Z-fold packing gauze. It costs like $3 on North American Rescue's website. You can get them
Medicalgearoutfitters.com.
or medicalgearoutfitters.com, code PrepMedic. Um, Yeah, it's not expensive.
Mm,
And there's really nothing to say that the $40 Chitosan gauze or a quick clot or anything like that doesn't save any more lives. They haven't demonstrated that in any literature. It stops bleeding a little faster, but doesn't have any like long-term benefits that they can find. So if you want to buy like a $2 thing of packing gauze, that works on extremity injuries. That works as a pressure bandage if somebody hits their head and is bleeding. That works to pack a junctional site. Like that's the most versatile thing you can carry. And honestly,
yeah.
that's what I'd go with for most everything I do.
Yeah, I agree. And even like the SWAT T, like I like the SWAT T because in the civilian world, you're the odds of you self applying your own tourniquet is very low. You're probably going to apply it to someone else. You're using it for a pressure bandage. You're going to use it to put a splint on. Tons of uses for it. So I actually agreed with you on that one time when you did that video.
The interesting thing is we look at a lot of military data for tourniquets. And it's kind of a tangent, but military members, when they're attacked, they're almost always wearing body armor. So you see a lot of extremity injuries and isolated extremity injuries because they'll get shot 5 times, they'll get hit 3 times in the plate and aren't truly injured from that. And then that other bullet will hit them in the arm and sever their brachial artery or something like that. And then they'll self apply a tourniquet. In the civilian world, if you look at like ballistics reports, most of the time they're still shot in the extremities at pretty much the same rate, but they're also shot in the body. And those preventable deaths from gunshot wounds are less in the civilian world because you're getting hit in vital organs much more frequently. So, that's kind of why it's in the civilian world. The tourniquet's not the be all end all. It's something you should carry. I carry one, but it's not the thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. Awesome. Well, do you have anything else?
Oh man, I don't think so. Send us topics if you guys think of any out there, or if you want to see me just host this and fire Skinny Medic, let me know that too. Uh,
Boo.
but yeah, that's all I have.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys listening to us and the support over the years for this podcast. And hopefully, the new direction is going good. If you don't like Sam, then just let me know that too. We'll fire him and we'll fire somebody else. So um, we'll do a job posting. If you want to come be my co host, you can come be my co host. But we appreciate the support. And obviously, I appreciate the support at medicalgearoutfitters.com. You can use coupon code civilian medical, and that'll save you 10%. So I appreciate it. We will be recording soon.